My name is Gabriel Vallejo Loera, and this is the investigation called The Day Superman Destroyed Hollywood on the topic entertainment. The abstract. A deep take on a research about entertainment in the cinematography industry, how the superheroes movie has advanced and changed the movie industry for bad and for good. Superheroes movies oversupply has affected cinematography, making a downgrade, leaving original creators with few funds to create new and original projects that are not as big as superhero movies with tons of special effects and production. Yet, due to this problematic, big movie industries are changing the way of making these movies, allowing new directors to create new things. All of this mainly because of the boredom that is being expanded in the public with the repetitive superhero movies. Through a series of analyses and surveys, it can be noticed that a lot of the actual interaction between the general public and this topic in entertainment. Chapter 1. Problem of Investigation. Introduction. This investigation is about cinematography and popular culture in entertainment. By this mean, the objective is to explain how superheroes movies have changed Hollywood and determine whether or not the changes have upgraded or downgraded the cinematography around the world. Variables and research question. During the investigation and experimentation, there are different types of variables as presented in the above. Independent. How many movies is for beginners and numerical due to the fact that it evaluates the quantity of how many movies of superheroes have been made, and discrete because it's a whole number to count how many. The ranking of or grade of the movies is an important variable that gives more proofs to the argument. The movie genre can vary in superhero movies from action movies to scary and drama movies, so it's an important variable that affects the dependent variable. It is a categorical and nominal because it refers to a quality and to identify something without a given order, just a gender. Dependent. It is the dependent variable due to the effects or the consequence to all the other mentioned variables and because in the hypothesis it appears as the consequence. Hypothesis. If big Hollywood studios create an oversupply of big superhero projects with high production costs and same superhero formula, then directors won't be able to create new projects, therefore stopping the development of cinematography. Research objectives. To inform and demonstrate how movies and cinematography have changed over the years due to the impact superheroes have made in the industry and how it can be damaging art and culture. General objectives. To show how superhero relations with Hollywood. Specific objectives. To show how superheroes entered the movie industry. Inform when did superheroes cover the market of cinematography. Explain how superheroes movies affected in a bad way the cinematography. To structure cinematography as something vital for economy and art. Research justification. Since the early 1940s, movies started to gain fame and the movie industry started to explode and globalize in the so-called Golden Age. After this, cinematography passed from being a small experimental industry to being one of the largest and most important things in the culture of the world. After the increment and popularity of movies business, this activity became an everyday thing and started the foundations of the new pop culture. Cinematography created a new labor field. Many people around the world took cinematography seriously and started a career in it. Cinematography developed during the last century, passing from simple silent comedy to movies with sound and developed dialogues to practical effects to VFX to the newest CGI and developed drama stories. This whole transformation and developing process wasn't easy and required a lot of novelty on the field. So the industry was constantly changing. One of the changes came with the first superhero movie, Superman. Superman in 1978. This experiment of bringing superhero stories to the big screen was due to the success of the first Star Wars trilogy. The movie was received really well by the public who wanted to see something new. After these several superhero movies were created, and all in all were a little different from each other. Each movie was unique. The problem began with the Marvel Cinematographic Universe, the MCU, with the Incredible Hulk movie in 2003 that then led to tens of superhero movies which encompass the whole industry and use the same identical formula in each movie for almost 20 years. This caused movies to stop evolving and created a big problem for cinematographers who wanted to do something new and revolutionary. Due to this problem, some cinematographers have opted to do the same and created movies with great productions, high costs, and big fights that resemble to the MCU movies. So, with an industry that doesn't let directors create new original content, the main attractive of movies was originality is lost, and it's losing its essence of art. Now, the delimitations of the investigation. The lack of investigations in this topic are severe, limiting the amount of information sources that are useful for this research. Also, with a limited time and number of persons working on the research, it will be less deep in terms of investigating and reaching. For last, the survey won't provide too much information due to the few amount of people that the research got to reach. Chapter 2, Theoretical Framework. Cinematography was born in the year 1890, invented by Auguste and Louis Lumière, known as the Lumière brothers. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, cinematography was and is a series of moving photos, and that is exactly how it began. The Lumière brothers used a short sequence of photos and passed them in front of the light with a machine to create a sense of movement. At the moment, nothing even remotely similar to this existed, which gave the brothers big fame and fortune, of course. But with the pass of 30 long years, the science of cinematography was developed, getting to have even 90 minutes of film. Then movies passed from the original silent movies to actually having sound and complete dialogues. Some cinematographers realized that movies couldn't have even more realistic things like sound effects, scenarios, makeup, and costumes. It was at this moment that cinematography became a more relevant thing and started to become a global phenomenon. Finally, in the early 30s, people started to take cinematography as a real job, and this led to the so-called golden age in movies. In this particular time, the Mexican cinematography became one of the best ones due to its originality and authenticity. Yes, this era didn't last long, and it was because of two main factors: laws and televisions. How? Well, producers of movies became severely rich, creating monopolies of their own movies in their own cinema theaters, which was a direct relation to a lot of laws. And as if that wasn't enough, television was made, and people preferred to see movies in their own home, which transformed completely the industry. Nevertheless, the golden age did help to grow the movie industry and create a lot of more interest and demand for movies. And it was at this precise moment that the color television was created by Guillermo González Camarena, a former Mexican movie enthusiast. Once again, the cinematographic industry had changed, and people working on it had to change with it too. Now, before getting to the early 2000s, everything was more practical and handmade in the movies. If you saw a building exploding, it really did explode. If you saw a big monster with fangs, it was a really detailed makeup and costumes with artistic props. Cinematography was born as an art and developed like art, always changing. So, when a new technology was created, it was used and potentiated for cinematographic purposes. And this was exactly what began to happen. Practice effects started to be replaced by VFX. With the arrival of VFX, a big hit was created, Star Wars: A New Hope, 1977. The film created by George Lucas raised new possibilities for cinematography, and it was probably the cause that first superhero movies came to the big screen, Superman, 1978, just a year later. People wanted new things, new stories to discover on the cinemas, and this new superhero trend gave them exactly what they wanted. This is why the movie was so well received on its launch. Yet, the process of popularization of superheroes in movies had a little stumbling, and at first, with superhero movies that ended being hated by the fans and the general public. But then, with the 2000s, a new problem raised in the horizon. People now saw superheroes as something silly, so directors had to find a way to modernize them. The X-Men movie, 2000, solved this problem without a problem. They found a new way to create superheroes movies with a modern taste. Finally, the beginning of superheroes' reign of terror began. In 2003, Marvel launched The Incredible Hulk, a smart reinvention for the character, but then, in 2008, they launched Iron Man first movie, which was apparently connected with the Incredible Hulk movie. After this, the franchise started to get fame, and Disney bought Marvel Studios to create for the first time the MCU, Marvel Cinematographic Universe. The first two were actually pretty decent movies, with original ideas and a new way of narrating superhero movies. But Disney opted to follow a formula to ensure that all of their movies were going to be good. The problem with this? The production of these movies were huge and hoarded the whole movie industry, leaving independent movies and original stories aside, and at the same time, didn't develop cinematography by being all the same. During these 20 years of superhero madness, directors had to adapt their movies to compete with superheroes ones. This led to discourage directors from creating original content and a downgrade on an industry that started to look like a monopoly of just Disney movies. Chapter 3: Methodological Framework. Research level, level 3, descriptive research design, descriptive research, cross-sectional design, single-sectional design. Population, Mexican students of autism between 30 to 16 years old. Sample, 40 people. Experimental design. Objective and justification, started with looking for a topic for the research and the objective and justification. Research, looked for information and investigated. Writing the framework, write the research for first delivery. Survey, made a survey to obtain information about the topic. And result, obtained answers and write it for the second and third delivery. Materials and equipment list, my PC, Google, and Google Forms. Experimental procedure, known. Data collection technique and instrument. The data was collected through a survey in Google Forms, distributed through social media. Data processing and analysis technique. After collecting the answers and tables of the survey, the data passes to an Excel format to be analyzed by analysts. Chapter 4: Presentation and analysis of results. How many answers did you receive? 40. Ordered answers according with the age of the participants, arranged between 18 to a max of 25. How many women answered your survey? How many men? The 28% were men. The 28% were women, 11 women. The 72% were men, 29 men. Are they all from SLP? Are they all from autism? No, also from Mexico City, Monterrey, and different schools. order the questions with multiple choice answers, order the pie charts from those answers and paste them in order here. What is your gender? How many movies? Have you seen superhero movies? You like this type of movies? Which is your favorite superhero industry? How do you feel about these movies? What do you think was the first superhero movie? Which gender do you think superhero belong? Do you know about Marvel superhero movies formula? Do you think superhero movies are changing or are the same? Have you ever heard about the downgrade in cinematography due to these movies? In the last couple of years, you have seen less or more superhero movies. How many open questions did you make? 15 questions. Make a table with the characteristics of the participants. Age, 18 to 25. Sex, 11 women, 29 men. Completed surveys, 40. Number of participants, 40. People from SLP, 35. People from ITSM, 37. Write a couple of conclusions about the answers. I noticed 4 major things. First of all, people aren't too interested in the superhero movies topic. This I figured out due to the lack of surveys answered. Second, most of the people in SLP love superhero movies, while people in Mexico and Monterrey are bored of them. Third, almost every Mexican has seen superhero movies and actually has acknowledged about the industry and its history. Fourth, people are noticing a change in superhero movies, especially the people that were bored of them. This can mean that although superhero industry was getting repetitive and used, it is changing into different topics and genders to renovate itself, and it can actually change its course. Conclusion. For the end of the investigation, the hypothesis keeps the same. If big Hollywood studios create an oversupply of big superhero projects with high production costs and the same superhero formula, then directors won't be able to create new projects, therefore stopping the development of cinematography. Big Hollywood studios create an oversupply of big superhero projects with high production costs and the same superhero formula, then directors won't be able to create new projects, therefore stopping the development of cinematography. And therefore, the statement, through analysis and investigation, turned out to be true. Nevertheless, people are noticing this problematic, especially the studios in Hollywood, which through the last couple of years have been making changes, not only on the quantity of superhero movies, but also in the way they are presented, changing its gender from dumb action movies to other type of gender and narrative. According to the survey, this can be for 2 different reasons. People was stopping to get interested in superhero movies, and due to the social media, people are always informed and know what the new problematics in all kinds of topics are, including cinematography.